Namaste students, myself Sunil Kumar from the Department of Computer Science. Today we are moving to the next session based on the chapter that you can see here, that is control statements. Already we discussed with the different topics based on the control statement. In previous session we mainly discussed about the while and do while looping structure. Remember, that is very important, while and do while. And in this session we are going to discuss about for looping structure. So these are the mainly three looping structures that is very much important. And that is for lab purpose also, and also for examination they are asking for 5 marks. Explain the while loop, that is a 5-mark question. Explain the do while looping with the syntax and example, that is also 5-mark question. That is mainly important topic based on the control statements. Here, what is a while loop? If you take the while loop, while is a pre-tested looping structure, and here first we are using the control. First control is going to check the condition. If the condition is true, then body of the loop will be executed. After executing the body of the loop, once again condition will be tested, and this process will be repeated again and again until the condition becomes false. So this is actually known as while looping. Whenever condition is false, this control is going to move out from the looping structure. The next one we discussed is do while looping. In case of do while looping, first control executes the body of the program, or in the loop, whichever statements are there, all the statements are going to execute first. After executing the statements, next is going to check the condition. Whenever condition is true, once again body of the loop will be executed, and this process will be repeated until the test condition becomes false. So here this is the while and do while looping. That is a 5-mark question. Explain the while and explain the do while. That is also 5-mark question. So next, one more important topic based on the while and do while, that is difference between the while and do while. You will get the question like this: differentiate while and do while looping structure. Differentiate while and do while looping structure. This one is also 5-mark question, and it is repeated in 2014, 15 and 16 question papers. So this is also one more important topic based on the control statement. Differentiate while and do while, or you can see the difference between the do while and do while statement. You can see here, this side I wrote the while and one more side I wrote the do while. So if you go to first let's consider the while statement. So while looping structure. Remember, while is a pre-tested looping structure. Remember, while is a pre-tested looping structure. What is a pre-tested means? Before entering inside, whenever condition is checked, then that is known as pre-tested looping structure. For example, if you want to watch a movie, whenever if you want to watch a movie, you will go to the theater. If you want to enter inside the theater, ticket is required. So that ticket is the condition. Whenever you have the ticket, that condition is satisfied. If you have the tickets, then condition is satisfied. That is actually known as pre-tested. Then you are able to watch the movie. So that is actually known as pre-tested looping structure. Then after that, next we test the condition at the initial point of the looping structure. When body of the loop will be executed, before executing the body of the loop, whenever looping structure is started, when we are going to execute the looping structure, at the initial point, it is going to check the condition. Condition will be tested. So if you are going to check the condition, mainly we are getting two output. Whenever, if you are going to check the conditions, we are getting the two kinds of output. One is either condition may be true or condition may be false. Only two kinds of output we are getting. Either the condition may be true or the condition may be the false. So whenever condition is true, if the condition is true, then body of the loop will be executed again and again. Remember, that is important. Whenever the condition is true, then body of the loop will be executed again and again. Body of the loop means statements written inside. Inside the brackets, we are writing inside the flower bracket, we are writing the n number of statements. We can write n number of statements. That n number of statements can be executed again and again. That is actually known as in case of condition is true. Not only condition is true, sometimes condition may be false also. If the condition is false, when condition is true, that happens. Whenever condition is false, the controller will come out from the looping structure. Whenever condition becomes false, controller will exit from the looping structure, or it is not going to execute once again. From that, controller is going to move out from the looping structure. And one more important topic here, one more important point is the statement may not be executed even once. See, if the condition is false, remember, if the condition is false, the statement is not going to execute at least once. At least once also, statements are not going to execute. That is in case of while looping structure. The next is move to the do while looping structure. If you are going to take the do while looping structure, it is a post-tested looping structure. It is a post-tested looping structure. Post-tested means before, if you want to enter inside, there is no condition. If you want to enter inside, there is no condition. But if you want to move out from the particular place, some places, not all places, some places, if you want to move out from some place, you will be checked once. You will be checked once. So that is actually known as post-tested. If you want to enter, there is no condition. But when you are going to move out from the particular place or particular area, then you will be checked once. That is actually known as post-tested. So in case of looping also, while loop is post-tested means first, when you want to execute, whenever if you want to enter inside the looping structure, whenever control wants to enter inside the looping structure, there is no condition. There is no condition to enter inside the looping structure. It will execute, not a matter. After executing that, then control is going to test condition. Control is going to check the conditions. If the condition is true, then once again loop will be executed. That is actually the pre-post-tested. It tests the condition at the end of looping structure. Control will check the conditions. Control will check the condition at the end of the looping structure. So statement will be executed. After executing the statement, then finally condition is going to check. After checking the condition, we are getting two kinds of output. After checking the condition, we are mainly getting the two kinds of output. Either condition may be true or the condition may be false. Condition may be true or the condition may be false. Whenever condition is true, then body of the loop will be executed again and again. Body of the loop. If condition is true, same as while only, here also loop will be executed or statements will be executed again and again. If the condition becomes false, whenever condition is false, then controller will come out from the looping structure. Controller will come out from the looping structure. The statements here, that is okay. The same as while loop only. One more important thing here is the statements are executed at least once. At least once even the condition is false. Whenever condition is false, even though condition, whenever if you give any conditions, even though condition is false, the body of the loop will be executed at least once. At least once the body of the loop will be executed. That is actually known as do-while statement. So these are the mainly while and do-while. So main what is the difference? If you take the while, it is a pre-tested. If you take the do-while, that is post-tested. While is pre-tested, do-while is post-tested. Here, in while condition is tested at the initial point. Condition is tested at the initial point. If you take the do-while, here condition is tested at the end of the looping structure. That's the main difference. Then here, the condition is true, body of the loop will be executed again and again in while loop. In do-while also the same thing. If the condition is true, body of the loop will be executed again and again. Next here, if the condition is false, control is moving out from the looping structure in case of while. That is also same in case of do-while. The condition became false, controller will move out from the looping structure. That is also same. But here difference is the statement may not be executed at least even once. Even once also statements are not executed if the condition is false. If the condition is false, initial state only condition false means the statements even not executing at least once. But control is not going to inside the looping structure if the condition is false in the initial state. But here in do-while, if the condition is false in even initial state also, it will execute at least once. The body of the loop or statements are executed at least once in case of do-while looping structure. So this is the main difference between the while and do-while. You can write down this one. Give the time to write down this one. Pause the video and write down the difference between while and do-while. And important, whenever if you are going to write, add the syntax and example for both. Syntax, example, and also if possible add the flowchart. These are things you have to add, and remember this is a very important topic and which will come for 5 marks. So before moving to the next time, moving to the one more topic, for loop. Before moving to that one, just copy down the points. Next, we will move to the last type of looping structure, that is important one, that is for loop. Important, I say important because most of the programming we are using the same thing, that is a for loop. The for loop is also known as fixed looping structure. For loop is also known as fixed looping structure. What do you mean by fixed looping structure? When in case of fixed looping structure, exactly we will know how many times the loop should be repeated. Exactly, if we know how many times that particular loop should be repeated, then we can make use of the for loop. So it is also known as fixed looping structure. It uses a counter variable. Remember, mainly we are using one counter variable that will count how many number of times we are going to execute the statements. For example, if you want to execute 10 times, so counter will count 1, 2, 3 like that. Counter will count how many times that particular loop should be repeated. For that purpose, we are mainly using the one counter variable. So how we can implement this one? Already explained in programming construct part. Once again, I will explain how to use the for loop, general format. So whenever if you are using the for loop, first you have to use one variable, one keyword for. You have to use with the one keyword, that is the for, that is used for loop, then open bracket, open parenthesis or open bracket, then initialization. First part is initialization, first part, then after that semicolon, remember one column, semicolon. Next part is condition, again semicolon. Next I write here increment or decrement. Important part is so here increment or decrement. Then after that closing bracket, then open flower bracket, body of the loop also called statements. Statement 1, statement n number of statement, then closing flower bracket. So this is the general format for the for loop. This is the general format for the for loop. Then if you take the for loop, how it is going to work? How this is going to work? So if you take the for loop, already explained, first control will be there. Control first is moving to initialization. Control first is going to initialize the values. So there is initialization later. Initialization means first part is initialization. First control is moving to initialization. What is initialization? Providing the initial values to the counter variables. Normally I told here we are making use of one counter variable. That we are going to count. For example, we already know 10 times if you want to execute. Already if you know, if you want to repeat the loop 10 times means, so I will use one variable, counter variable, C, I, J, anything, any variable I can use. So I use I. If I use, first value I should give. For example, I want to repeat the loop 10 times. For example, I am saying I want to repeat the loop 10 times. Whenever if you are going to repeat the loop 10 times, you have to count. One variable should be there for count. One variable should be there for count. So first I will give I as a counter variable. Should be repeated 10 times. So what is the first value? If counting means it is also possible. 10 to 20 also you can count. 10 to 20 or 30 to 20, 10 to 20 also that's 10 times. 0 to 9 also 10 times. 1 to 10 also 10 times. So like that we can use. So whenever if you are going to use like that, first value should give for the counter variable. For a particular counter variable, we have to give one value, first initial value. That providing initial value for the counter variable, that is actually known as initialization. Initialization means it is assigning the one value, assigning one value for the counting variables. For variable, initial value providing. So that is actually known as initialization. After initializing the value, next step, second step is after initialization of values, next control is moving to check the condition. So 10 times should be repeated. You have to check the condition, whether it is less than 10, like that you have to check. Less than, if the loop should be repeated 20 times, means you have to check whether it is 20 times repeating or not. So like that you have to check the condition again and again. So next control is moved to check the condition. So condition A less than 20, B less than 20, I less than 20, I less than 10, I greater than 10, like that any condition we can use. Any kind of condition we can use, so condition is going to be tested. After checking the condition, if you go to check, normally if you go to check the condition, there are two outputs are possible. One, either condition may be true or condition may be false. First of all, you go to the true part. Whenever condition is true, control is going to execute the body of the loop or statements written inside these brackets. So it's going to execute the statement. So I give the mark like that. So it will execute the body of the loop. If the condition is true, if the condition is true, then body of the loop will be executed. Body of the loop will be executed. Inside the body of the loop, if you write 10 statement, 10 statement also going to repeat. If you wrote 20 statement, that 20 statements also going to repeat. So we'll execute all the statements. Then after executing all the statement, next after executing all the statement, control is moving to increment or decrement. It will increment or decrement the counter values. So for example, first I value is 0, next should be increment, and next I value should be 1, next I value should be 2. So because we have to repeat 10 times, right? So whenever if you will repeat 10 times, so I value, if you give the counter value as I, or if you give the counter value of j, if I take it as I means I should be incremented. For next time it should be 2, 1. First is 0 means next time it should be 1. Next 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 like that it should be incremented. So whenever if you are incrementing means we are making use of either increment or decrement. Anything you can use. Which one is possible? What is increment? Increment means that is a unary operator. That value will be added by 1. Increment means value will be added by 1. For example, you can use I plus plus. For example, you can use I plus plus. That is increment. I value is incremented by 1. So I minus minus. I minus minus means I value is decreased by 1. I plus plus and I minus minus. Plus plus 1, that will be increased by 1. That is known as increment. Minus minus means that operator is known as decrement. That is increment or decrement. So increment or decrement are that will increment or decrement the counter values. After increment or decrement, next control is moving to check the condition. Control is moving to check the condition. So this is the repeating. After checking the condition, second control will be checked once. After checking the condition, next it is 2 means executed, incremented, condition. These 2 means executed, incremented. So this will be repeated again and again. This will be repeated again and again until the condition becomes false. Whenever condition is false means I write here. Whenever condition is false, then control will move out from the looping structure. Control will move out from the looping structure. So this is the explanation for the for loop. Okay? If you want, you can once again see the same topic. I am not going to explain once again. Same topic you can see once again here. And one more thing, initialization takes place only once. In case of for loop, initialization takes place only once. Remaining things will be executed again and again. Remaining things will be repeated again and again until the condition becomes false. Once again, brief explanations here. Control is moving to initialization. It will initialize the values. After initialization, next control will check the condition. If the condition is true, body of the loop will be executed. After executing the body of the loop, next control is moving to increment or decrement. After increment or decrement process, next control is moving to check the condition. If the condition is true, then once again body of the loop will be executed, and this process will be repeated again and again until the condition becomes false. This is actually the explanation. Already explained in programming construct. Once again explained here. So next we will move to the flow chart. How we can try to draw the flow chart for this one? Whenever you are going to draw the flow chart, first here we are using special symbol here. This symbol is mainly used for loop. This symbol is mainly used for loop. Here we are mainly using the counter variable. Counter initial value to final value. So it is a fixed type of looping structure. It is a fixed looping structure. So from initial value to the final value, loop should be repeated. From initial value till the final value, the loop should be repeated. So we are using this one. The next we have to use the statements here. Next we are executing the statements. The statement I have right here. Different kinds of statements. Statement 1, statement 1 to statement m. All the statements are executed. So here, after that, next we are going to increment the counter. So for that purpose, I use only counter here. either decrement or decrement, or you can say the next counter. So first counter value 1 means next should be 2, 3 like that. Now to check the counters. Whenever counter is satisfied, it is going to back, or it is when a counter is false or counter is not satisfied, then it is going to move out from the looping structure. In this case of for loop, this flowchart is not much important, but important here it is syntax and explanation for the for looping structure. So we will see one example. Now we will see the one programming example based on the for loop. So whenever if you are going to write the for loop programming, just I will take one simple example to print n numbers. To print the n numbers, first n number we have to print. So whenever if you are going to print the n numbers, first what is the first step? Already I told in previous sessions. First is documentation. After that, linking section include IO stream. IO stream means input output stream IO stream.x. Next I will start with the void main, then open flower bracket. Next I will use the integer variables. So this is declaring the variables. Which and all this variable is required, that I will write later because that is easier. Which and all variables are required, just give the space here. Then which and all type of variable or which type of variable we are using, that we can define later. If you already know the programming, we can write. If you don't know the programming, then you can write later that one. So it gives a space for that one. Next here, cin input n, because I want to print n natural numbers or n numbers I have to print. So I use cin n. So before typing the value of like that, you can use cout. So that we can use enter limit. So we can take the enter the double display. Then I can use cin n. So n is required. So like that you can write. So cout enter limit. So final limit we can enter. For example, if you want to display 10 numbers, so n value will be 10. If you want to display 20 numbers, so n value will be the 20. Like that you can display the numbers. Or not, you can enter the limit 10 numbers. If you give the 20 means first 20 numbers will be displayed. If you give 30 means first 30 numbers will be displayed. For that purpose you can use. Then after that you can display the value. So if you go give the n numbers, then you want to display the value. So for loop and right here, for open bracket. First I use counter variable as I equal to 1. So next value is I. 2 values enough for me. Then I know already because I know that one, so I wrote only 2 value. I is equal to from, because I want to print n numbers. First starting with the I is 1. Till when I less than or equal to n. I less than or equal to n. Because I if you turn 20 means it's 20 also I want to display. So I less than or equal to n. Then I want to increment. I use here increment I plus plus. I am using increment here I plus plus. Then open flower bracket. Cout. I am going to print I value is printed. I value is printed. So next one is here closing flower bracket. So if you print the values like this, it will print it one after another. It will print the values one after another. If you want to display the value first line, next line like that, then you have to use this one, that is endl. Endl you can use. That is used to display the letter end line. That is mainly end line. So display the data one line after another line. Instead of endl, you can also use new line character /n. /n also we can use /n. Backslash n. That is to display the character one line after one. For that purpose, or that is known as new line character. So then closing the main. So this is a simple program. The simple program, to which purpose we are using this simple program? This is mainly for displaying the n natural numbers. So how it is working? First I value is 1. First I value will be 1. Then 1 is less than or equal to n. N value equal to, for example, 10 means. If you do the n value is 10 means, it will be checking I 1 less than or equal to 10. So condition is true. So whenever condition is true, we will execute the statement. Here cout I means 1 will be displayed. The next line will be given. So next I plus plus. Next is given at I plus plus. Next I value will be the 2. I value is 2. So next we will check I 2 less than 10. So the condition is true means 2 is printed, it's 3, 4, 5 like that, all the values are going to print. Whenever condition is not satisfied, then control is moving out from the looping structure. Only one example I give up. So based on this one, work out more examples. By here we reach the end of session today. In this session we mainly discussed about difference between the while and the while, and also we discussed about the for loop. Important one is for loop, and also two important topic. They are also asking these two questions for all the years. Almost all year they are asking for loop, and also they are asking difference between the while and do while. Remember, while for loop is very important. If you have any doubts, you can ask later. And here we will discuss with the for loop, general format, syntax. Then after that we discuss the flowchart, and finally we discuss the one programming example. When college starts, at that time I'll explain with the different programming example in the lab. So by here I'll wind up my today's session. Thank you.